What's up, everybody? It's KBR Sports, the best sports talk show, back from the break. Remember, you all can follow and subscribe to the KBR Sports podcast by going on Rabble TV, Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. Also, don't forget to follow the KBR Sports Twitter page at KBR_sports, where the live links and show topics are tweeted prior to every single show. Also, don't forget you all can follow or call in at 571-991-0566 in order to give your thoughts and opinions on any KBR Sports show topic that may be getting discussed at that point in time. Remember, the number is 571-991-0566. Also, don't forget to comment, like, share the KBR Sports podcast. That way you all can show your support. And to get KBR Sports' name out there, y'all, so make sure you comment, like, share, and subscribe so we can get your feedback as well. All right, so prior to jumping into this next topic, so, Nigel, I got a quick question. So, if you had to choose any sport for your child to play, what would you choose for your child to play?
Whatever my child wanted to play. I'm not going to restrict them to my forced wants and needs.
Really?
It'd be basketball.
Basketball?
Yeah.
Why is basketball?
Basketball or baseball?
Money?
Yeah.
I mean, do you know how to coach a kid in baseball?
No. Goodness, no. It's YouTube.
YouTube.
Actually, you know what? Badminton.
Come on, man.
Full circle.
Come on.
Nah, but seriously, baseball, basketball.
You said baseball or basketball?
Yeah.
Could you see yourself coaching a kids league?
YouTube videos, man.
No, I'm saying basketball
No,
team.
I suck at basketball.
You don't have to be good at it to coach it.
He's not going to be boring my jump shots, so no, I can't teach him anything.
You say you're not going to what?
He's not going to be boring my jump shots, so I can't teach him anything.
You can teach him the principles.
I mean, sure, I'll be there with him to learn that, to help him, like, point out tips and stuff like that. But, I mean, hopefully I'll get somebody who's, like, training exclusively for basketball. If he shows that he's, like, clearly talented in basketball, I'll go out and get a trainer for him. More so than me coach him.
Okay, so are you of the mindset that you would specialize your kid in basketball, or would you diversify?
I'd diversify. If he wants to play sports, I don't care what they play if they want to play it. If they want to play track, hockey, basketball, and baseball in the same year, go right on ahead. As long as your grade's straight, I don't care.
Okay, so the reason why I asked you this is because it's a tie-in for our next topic. We're talking about the NFL and CTE. Obviously, CTE is a big topic of discussion for the NFL in recent years. But the NFL now admitting that CTE or football is linked to the onset of CTE. And if for those who don't know, CTE means chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and that's what the CTE acronym is for. Right now, recently did a study where they studied 202 former football players and found evidence of CTE linked, which is linked to pretty much the beating of the head, which normally occurs in football. Out of 177 former players, CTE was diagnosed with 77 former players, which means 90% out of 90, which is nearly 90% of the brains that were studied. That includes 110 out of 111 former NFL players, 48 of 53 former college players, 9 of 14 semi-professional, 7 of 8 Canadian Football League players, and 3 of 14 high school players. It's important to note so that the findings of this research are not swayed or misportrayed in any kind of way or not perceived to be biased. These brains that were submitted were submitted by families that from families that believe that their loved ones already showed signs of memory loss, depression, and suicide, which are symptoms of suicide, obviously being a result of which can be a result of CTE, but the other two being functions of what when one has CTE. So, Nigel, what do you think the most recent findings about the CTE in its conjunction with the NFL football players or football players in general? What kind of impact and outlook will that have on the NFL?
Tells us that the sport is dangerous and continues to be dangerous. Are you surprised about this number?
I am. I mean, think about it. out of 111 NFL players that were a part of the study, 110 had it. And I mean, I know it comes from families that their loved ones were experiencing the symptoms of CTE, but the fact that it actually was CTE is kind of, I mean, it's really surprising. I'm shocked at how high the number was. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be interesting to see if they can do a study. It kind of sucks because they can only do these studies on these guys once they passed away, which kind of limits the scope of how many guys they can do the test on, and it all depends on whether the foundation of the person's brain afterwards, after they pass. But if there was a way to test to find out the mental scope of these guys, what these guys' mental situation is prior to death, it'd be really, really interesting to see how that would work out.
They also did it in. Did you mention college players?
Yes.
Did.
It was like 48 or 53.
Yeah, and 3 or 14 in high school players.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. But I mean, what do you think is gonna happen when you're just hitting? When you're getting your head hit, you're hitting the ground hard. I mean, there's no shock absorber for your brain. I mean, it's just taking hits. I mean, they can pad the helmets all they want to, come out with new helmets all they want to. I mean, but it's still your brain's still not getting protected.
What do you think? What kind of outlook do you think this has on the NFL?
None. People know CTE is dangerous. People know football is dangerous. They don't care. I would say the initial shock of it was probably the biggest part of downfall. Was probably its biggest hit, and ever since then, it's been like, well, we know it's dangerous. So what?
Well, I will say that this is a selective sample, and one of the doctors that was working hands on this even said it that excuse me, Dr. Ann McKee, a Boston University neuroscientist, and Dr. Monroe Cullum said that this is a really small sample to really draw findings off of, and it's a very selective sample. But I think it does kind of raise a red flag in terms of just how close the numbers are for a lot of people. Because if you're seeing that it is onset in people in high school, even though the numbers are less because high school players are less developed, they're not as fast, they're not as physical as professional players and grown men. But the fact that you see that it's still onset in some of these young players, it is alarming. Like, and now I wonder if like this can affect the Pop Warner leagues. You know, even though those kids are they're so small to even know how to really inflict surreal damage on each other. The possibilities are still there. So it's kind of, I mean, I think it does do a bit. I think it does do a bit of damage. When it always seems that these issues are more prevalent when the issues are raised or when a major hit happens. Like, I think the American public showed their issue or showed their concern with CTE and the impact of NFL concussions when the movie Concussion came out. Concussion didn't really do well in theaters, to my knowledge. Even though I didn't really think people would want to go out to the movie theaters to watch a movie specifically on NFL concussions and everything like that. So, but the fact of the matter is that most times these topics come up whenever a big hit happens, whenever a guy has a concussion. Like, CTE came back up when Luke Kuechly got his most recent concussion. It comes up when guys will make comments like, I wouldn't let my kids play football. Like, those kind of things. Like, but don't you think it's kind of weird that a lot of NFL players say, hey, if I had a choice, I would tell my kid not to play?
No. Because, I mean, they know it's dangerous, but I mean, is that weird?
That they tell them that they wouldn't want their kid to play?
Is that weird? I mean, it's dangerous. They know.
I mean, I don't hear soccer players saying it to their kids. I don't hear NHL players saying to their kids. I don't see boxers telling their kids they wouldn't want them to do the same thing. It always seems to be centered on the NFL guys that are saying that they wouldn't want their kids to follow up on what they do.
No, I just don't find it weird. I mean, they know how dangerous it is. I mean, does soccer have life-threatening diseases after you finish playing?
Soccer players get a lot of concussions.
But then, do they have the rate of suicides that CTE that football players do?
I'm not sure about that.
No, I'm pretty sure they don't. But that's my point. Like, I mean, sure, in boxing, but boxing, I mean, that's pretty much a dead sport anyway.
I mean, it's still dangerous, though.
It's still dangerous, but
I mean, just because it's a dead sport doesn't mean that you wouldn't want.
But who's gonna go ask somebody? Oh, who's big enough besides Floyd? Do you go ask somebody? Do you want your kid boxing? It's just not. It's not a big enough sport.
Triple G, Canelo.
See, you're naming names. I don't even know who those people are.
They're some of the biggest guys in.
That's my point. Nobody's going up to these guys and asking them. You know, boxing. So now maybe MMA. I understand that more than boxing at this point, but
okay, guys like McGregor, Amanda Nunes, Jose Aldo, like these. I mean, you got different. But it doesn't even come out of these, and these guys are seen as more dangerous. They're viewed as like I think. What would you think people would vote on as a more barbaric sport, MMA or NFL?
I think you actually have a pretty split population on that one.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, think about football just going around. I mean, literally just hitting people.
MMA, you're literally
fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them are pretty barbaric. I mean, if you
MMA draws blood.
Football, you can draw blood. What do you mean?
Football,
you can break stuff. I mean, what do you mean?
But how often in football does one draw blood we see guys literally leak in MMA?
You can't tell because they have helmets.
That's what I'm saying. So it becomes. I mean, that plays a factor in it. The fact that we see them bleeding plays a factor in how barbaric we see the sport at.
I'm saying they're both barbaric because I mean you're literally running around the field hitting people.
Yes.
Both of them are barbaric. That's what I'm saying. It's not a clear cut answer. MMA is more barbaric. It's. I think you would get a weight split.
I think both. I don't think it is clear, but I think MMA, because of the fact that you can see blood, the fact that you can see MMA, it's like football. Like you're doing hits, but you're doing a lot of the same kind of brand of hits. MMA, you're doing different punches, kicks, submission.
That's what like that's more advanced than football is.
And say football, the play ends. MMA, you can have a guy just wailing.
The round ends.
No, the round ends, but they keep going. Football, like the play is dead at some point. Not like a guy hits a guy, he's gonna go back and hit him, or he's gonna get unsportsmanlike conduct. MMA, if you got a guy, you're beating a guy down, you can literally keep beating him down until the ref says no, you got to stop. So I mean, that's kind of.
I'm not disagreeing with that it's barbaric. I'm just saying both of them are barbaric.
Okay, so I would for me, if I had a child and I would not tell my kid don't play football. But I don't think football will be one of my first choices in terms of what sport I want my kid to play. Like, it's one of those things that I think it kind of boils down to the fact of the matter that are you comfortable with like watching with the unguaranteed rewards of what football can give you. I mean, I know college football players, and they tell me they've had concussions. Some guys say they're willing to play through concussions, and I'm just like, I don't understand why is there a culture of I'm willing to even risk my head, risk my body, risk this, just to get on to stay on the field and keep playing. Like why do you think that there's that onset of culture in football? Why do you think there's a culture of guys that are willing to guys get concussions, guys will sustain head injuries, knowing the risk, even if they're on lower levels or unguaranteed contracts, are not guaranteed to play on the pro level, but they're willing to stay out on the field despite whatever injuries they may sustain. Why do you think this culture is onset in football?
Because they love the sport. As simple as that. I mean, you talk about the guys who are in the league right now. They say they love the sport. They love what they do. They love their job. I mean, that's all it really is.
So just because they love the sport, they're willing to risk them. So I mean, if you had to choose, but I don't think it's just the love of the sport, because if at the end of the day they had to choose the ability to be able to play at home with their kids and be able to play football, I think a lot of those guys would be able to make the choice of being able to play at home with their kids, to actually be a shell of being able to play with their kids if they had the choice.
I'm sure most of them do. Most of them say that, but I mean, at the day that they love I mean, you can love the sport and want to play with your kids at the same time. You do this for 10 years, and Malcolm Jenkins said he's going to play for 10 years, and he will evaluate if he wants to play or not anymore. Say he feels fine right now. His body feels good. But he said in 10 years, he's going to evaluate, see where he's at, and see if he wants to keep doing this or go home and play with his kid anymore.
I mean, you see guys like a Tony Romo. You see more guys retiring early. Chris Borland. Tony Romo just retired.
Tony Romo was like 36 years old.
No, Chris Borland was in his 20s. I say Chris Borland. But I'm saying, he retired early. Calvin Johnson could have kept playing. He retired. But Calvin Johnson didn't have concussion issues.
That was more so because his team was terrible.
But I mean, he still retired. He loved the game of football, but he still retired.
Okay, well, yeah, but that's not okay.
Were the Lions not a playoff team?
No. They were this year. But I mean, I'm saying while he was there, he wasn't made the play. He had his best year and they won 4 games.
No, but they made the playoffs in the most recent year that he was with them.
Yeah, and so he didn't feel like they were going to win. He's getting older.
He left a winning situation because he couldn't play the game anymore. He loved the game of football.
He could still play.
No, I'm saying he personally didn't want to play. I just said that he could have kept playing, but he retired earlier than he needed to. And that's why I'm like, more guys are retiring at earlier ages, despite a sport that gives you worthy compensation and stuff for your services in the sport. You can
always find people throughout history that retired early, though.
What?
You can find people throughout history that retired early.
In the NFL?
Yeah.
Not the ages they're retiring at now.
Man, you listed 4 guys.
And I can literally, if I put up a whole list,
I'm saying, you really don't think you can go through history and find guys who retired early?
No, but it's becoming more prevalent now. Like, there's more common occurrences of guys doing it now. And it's guys that are... It's not like it's bottom marginal guys. It's guys that... Didn't Patrick Willis retired and he still had more time he could have played. Like, there are guys that can keep playing. They're still seen as top-level talent in the sport when they're playing. But then they retire, and a lot of people are like, well... Like, where'd that come from? So that's the thing. That's why it's raising more red flags, because people are like, well, these guys are retiring at earlier ages, and they're retiring. They still have money left on the table. I think Patrick Willis was still under contract when he retired. So that's the most alarming thing to a lot of people, is the fact that guys are retiring prior to times when they're being pushed out the door, and they're just kind of just like, no, I'm not going to do it anymore, when they still have a lot left in the gas tank.
Like I said, I think if you go through history, you'll find guys retiring early. I
mean, I've actually seen. I'm not just going to make a statement and say I can just find guys. Like, there's actually, like, it's recent history. They've actually had a list of guys who retired more frequently earlier now.
I'm saying,
of guys at younger ages. I'm not just going to say, do all history. Like, that's such an expansive thing. This is so broad.
Even through, obviously, I'm talking about in a stretch of time, not like all of history. Of course, all of history is going to be.
Yeah, and this stretch of time, guys are retiring at younger ages.
And I'm saying, I would love to see. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying that's you're wrong or anything like that. I'm saying I would love to see, like, how much more are they retiring, like, early. Like, Barry Sanders retired early.
Reggie Bush. Who else?
And when you classify as early, though,
when you're still retiring in your prime.
But like Reggie Bush wasn't in his prime.
No, but Reggie Bush still could have played. He still had a rough spot. He still had Percy Harvin. Like, there are guys that still had a lot left to give in the game. They're still in their 20s. A lot of guys are retiring in their 30s or so, but these guys are half of these guys are still in their 20s, mid to late 20s, and they're just dropping out of the game. So that's like the red flag that's coming to alarm to a lot of people. So I think that's the main thing. I think overall in the grand scheme of things, the CTE thing, I think once they can start testing for it when guys are alive, that'll change the whole narrative of it, because then we'll actually see how many of these guys that are currently playing are getting CTE or are suffering from it, and they don't even know it. And it's one of those things that they'll take the onset later on. Like, I think Shannon Sharp of Undisputed, I mean, this kind of, some of this kind of goes into the NFL culture of how they, they're just willing to thug it out through anything. But he even said on Undisputed, playing the game gave him a life that he didn't think he could give his family any other way. So if he had to make a choice of whether to do it again, if he knew he would end up having CTE, and if he had the choice of playing or not playing, he would still play because of the opportunities it gave him and his family.
Yeah, that's a part of it.
So I think that's just, and I think when we're talking about this, we're talking about a lot of stars as well, because I think a lot of those marginal guys, like how we were talking about Lucky Whitehead, a guy like that, when you get injured, if you're injured in the NFL, teams can just cut you. So it gives you more of a reason to stay on the field, or more reason to play through whatever injury you have. I just think it's something that guys should be concerned about, because, man, head injuries are no joke. They're definitely no joke. But a lot of guys would rather say they'd rather get a head injury than an injury, so their careers don't end.
Before you end it real quick, I will say this. Also, I don't think it's fair just to say more players are retiring and not list a breakdown of why they're retiring.
No, these guys have actually said they say injuries is why they're retiring.
Yeah, but I'm saying guys like
Chris Borland said it literally concussions.
Chris Borland said concussions. Chris Borland's probably the poster child of this whole entire thing.
And the guy that was the dude that he dropped out because he was fighting for he was the poster child of the marijuana dispute, and he dropped out. He said that he wanted weed legalized because when he had his concussions, he dealt with a lot of headaches.
The kicker?
No, it was a defensive tackle. He was a former defense. I think he used to play on the Steelers. I can't remember his name though, but he said he had concussions and he wanted weed. He wanted the league to allow weed because he had, because of his concussions, he had so many headaches, and it was like he said the pain was unbearable. He didn't understand why the league banned or pretty much keeps weed illegal or has it banned so players can't use it. But all right, y'all, we're gonna transition to our next topic. We're gonna talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we're gonna answer the question: would they be able to win a ring or get to the NBA Finals per se without Kyrie Irving? Stay tuned to find out what we think. Is KBR Sports, the best sports talk show you 24-hour day. Remember, you all, after 40 to 50 seconds, the live link will disappear. But after that time period, refresh the page, and the live link should be back up for you all to tune into. It's KBR Sports.